5 words changed my life. Would you like to dance? I can still hear them. The way a song gets stuck in your ribs and won't leave. And if you had asked me that morning whether those words would drag me out of a corner I'd built around myself, I would have laughed or said I was fine, which was my favorite lie back then. You know what I mean? It was the North Crest Arboretum in Chicago, the kind of garden where the hedges look like money. As a landscaper, my twin sister, Savannah, was marrying a tech prince named Noah Pike under an arch of white roses, and I was at table 18 near a cypress, as far from the altar as you can be without sitting in the parking lot beige dress, beige napkin, beige mood servers gliding by in a choreography that somehow never bumped my chair like someone had briefed them. Keep it elegant, keep it moving, keep Riley quiet. And I could feel that old ache not in my legs. Those nerves clocked out 3 years earlier after black ice and a guardrail. But in my chest, the ache of being seen like furniture, heard like silence. A whisper floated from a nearby table. She looks so lonely. And another voice answered, Savannah asked us not to make a fuss. Like breathing near me would cause drama, like existing needed permission. My phone buzzed under the table, and it was Dr. Alvarez, my physical therapist with a zero-tolerance policy for self-pity. Remember what we practiced. You belong in any room you decide to enter. I stared at the words until they blurred, and I slid the phone away. Deciding to enter is one thing. Deciding to be seen is another muscle entirely. That's when I noticed him still as a lighthouse, while people orbited Grant Sterling. You've seen his face. If you've ever flipped through an airport magazine, clean energy, quiet suits a presence that doesn't chase attention, because it already has it. And yet, he was looking at me. Not through me, not past me, not with that polite half-glance folks aim at wheelchairs when they want to be kind. Without landing in a conversation, he looked like he'd found the only honest thing at the party. And before I could convince myself I imagined it, he started across the lawn. Slow. Deliberate. The kind of walk that makes time lean in, a socialite in emerald. Blocked his path and practically auctioned her daughter. He nodded, slid by. Like water. Finds the channel, never losing my eyes. And then he was beside my chair, while Savannah floated in like a storm cloud in tulle, fingers pressing my shoulder. Riley, what did you do? I didn't do anything. I whispered, and that felt like both the truth and a confession. Grant held out his hand. Would you like to dance? And the air fell out of the garden. A waiter froze, mid-pour. A phone tilted up. My heart went loud. I don't know how I said. And he smiled, the kind of smile that fixes its own mess. Then we'll figure it out together, may I? He asked from behind my chair and guided me to the center. Where all the eyes lived, the quartet slipped into a standard my grandparents used to hum. And he took both my hands, turning us in slow circles until the rhythm found my shoulders and my breath. It's not about feet, he whispered. It's about time and trust. Let me match you. And I laughed without planning to. Yeah, that happened. The song ended and people clapped like they wanted to be decent. Savannah's smile looked glued on, and Grant said, Dinner not for a headline, for a conversation. If you want. Savannah tried to wedge in with a schedule, only she could see she's very busy with her therapy. And Grant didn't look at her. He looked at me. I think Riley can speak for herself, and for the first time in a long time I did. I'd like that. The restaurant he chose had warm light and quiet confidence. Wide aisles, tables at the right height. Staff who asked before touching my chair. I asked how he found it, and he shrugged. I called you deserve a room that's ready for you. He asked what I used to love before the crash, and I told him the first truth of the night dance photography. I used to chase movement with a camera crawl on floors to catch the story inside a leap live for the frame where light kisses a cheekbone. Just right. What happened to the camera? He asked. It's hard to sprint for angles when you can't run, I said. And he tilted his head like he was hearing a second melody. Or maybe it's scary to do what you love in a new way. He wasn't wrong, and I wasn't ready. We were finishing dessert when reality walked up in heels, a reporter named Lana Quinn. Phone already up, hour. Readers love an inspiring angle. Can I get the billionaire and his wheelchair girlfriend? The word girlfriend. Burned, the word wheelchair. Snapped, and the phone in her hand. Made me wish I'd said no in the garden and we're having a private dinner. Grant said, don't turn a person into a prop. But the flash popped anyway, and the room felt colder. We left fast, and the knot in my stomach didn't untie on the ride home. By sunrise, the Metropolis Ledger screamed, revenge romance. Billionaire targets. Bride's paralyzed sister. To humiliate groom. The article had a timeline sharp enough to shave Grant's company, and Noah's had been in a 2-year knife fight. Contracts lost reputations. Bruised, he showed up at the wedding with a plan. Seduce the twin who wasn't watched, make a spectacle. Wreck a reputation. They had photos from the garden from dinner. Even the bouquet on my kitchen table, which I had thought was beautiful, and now looked like Exhibit A. My intercom turned into a game show buzzer, give us your side. Say something inspirational. Grant came to my door, looking like his suit had been wrung out. Let me explain, he said, and I yelled through the wood that explanations were for people who hadn't read the paper. He stayed anyway. I went there, angry. That's true. I wanted to hurt Noah, that's true. But when I saw you alone, everything changed. I asked you to dance because you were the only person who looked alive, and I pressed my forehead to the door and said the quiet part loud. I'll never know which parts were real. I hid for 3 weeks, curtains closed, calls, ignored takeout. Marching across the counter. Dr. Alvarez came by, looked at the mess, and said the line that split me open. You're not protecting yourself. You're disappearing yourself. You quit shooting, not because you can't, because you're afraid to be seen starting again. Fear isn't a disability accommodation. It's a bad habit. Then he dropped a flyer on my table. Emerging Perspectives at Whitaker Gallery. Deadline in 6 days. Pick up your camera. I did hands shaky at first, then hungry. I photographed a kid in a bright helmet racing his sister, an older man. Feeding pigeons like he was conducting strings. 2 women in their 70s at a bus stop, one thumb tracing circles on the other's hand. I called the series Still Moving, because I was even sitting still. My heart could run. Opening night. Smelled like new paint and old ambition. May Whitaker studied the prints, and then me, you see. Edges most people miss. There's a solo show in you. If you want it, I nodded. Like my neck remembered, Hess. And that was the night Grant walked in, not beelining to me, just taking the long way through the work, like it was a map. When he reached the self-portrait, I almost didn't hang my reflection in my window camera. Up city behind me and a ribbon of light ahead, he just stood there. Then he came over and let honesty do the talking. I came to Savannah's wedding with a revenge story in my head. Not noble, but I left with a different story, Sue. The dinner. The flowers. The way I asked you onto the floor, those were real. The rumor machine was Noah's world. not mine. My phone lit up with Savannah's name and all the words tumbled out. The FBI just left. Noah's been arrested. Espionage, sabotage, and Riley. They found proof he paid to leak your dinner photos. He wanted to finish Grant off. I had to sit down and breathe like the air was syrup. Sometimes the villain isn't the one. The headline sells. Sometimes it's the man who smiled while he moved your chair to the corner. I looked at Grant, saw him braced for a verdict. I couldn't wipe the slate clean. I could write one sentence on it. I'm not ready to pretend none of it happened. I'm willing to move forward, not start over, one rep at a time, like rebuilding a muscle. He laughed, like relief finally took off its shoes. Ask me to dinner, I said with nothing to prove, and he did for 6 months. We built ordinary days. Tuesday, Thai food. Learning to fold my chair without acting like a magician showing up at physical therapy, and shutting up unless invited to speak. Accessibility written into his new HQ drawings. Like oxygen, not extra questions asked. Answers, heard, not quoted. 6 months later he texted, "Meet me at the lakefront pergola at Sunset Where. Whatever makes you feel like you." I rolled up and saw the canopy of soft lights, my prints on easels in the grass, a quartet keeping the volume under my heartbeat. This is how I see you, he said. Not a headline, not a problem to solve. Someone who finds grace where most of us find excuses. Then he knelt with a ring, shaped like a camera aperture. Not a diamond, shouting at the room. Riley North, will you let me learn how to love you right? For the rest of my life. Will you marry me? Yes, lived in my mouth. But I'd learned something about speed. I love you, I said. And I say yes when we've stacked enough ordinary days under this moment to hold us. Give me 6 months. He closed his eyes and smiled. 6 months. The slow clapping from the shadows wasn't part of the plan. Noah stepped into the light, looking like a ruin. How touching. He sneered the billionaire and the broken doll. You two cost me everything. I felt anger. Before fear. I turned my chair toward him. I'm not a prop. You push or a doll. You break. I'm a photographer who learned to dance, sitting down a woman who said no to disappearing. Put the gun down. Noah, there's nothing left in your story. But damaged lights flickered on the path. Savannah appeared behind him with an officer, already calling it in. You ruined me. He spit. No, she said, steady. You did that yourself. The next moments were fast and clean. A command, the weapon on the ground. Security moving as one body cuffs sirens. Fading silence is loud after chaos. Grant touched my face like he was counting features. Are you hurt? I shook my head and laughed, that ragged laugh that sounds like crying. 6 months, he said again. 6 months, I said back. And that word felt like a house we were going to build. Here's where I leave you with something real. The prosecutor called last week to ask if I want to speak at Noah's sentencing. Part of me wants to say, throw the book until the spine cracks. He weaponized my chair to hurt someone else and tried to turn me into a headline. I didn't consent to. That deserves consequences. Another part of me knows shame can curdle a person from the inside and wonders if justice without mercy only teaches fear. I don't have the answer yet. Maybe you do. If you were me, what would you say to the judge? Maximum time or a shot at redemption? Have you ever been reduced to a headline or watched someone you love get turned into a prop? Drop your take in the comments. tell me where you're watching from. And if this hit a nerve, share it. Because the world is full of rooms where people are quietly deciding whether they belong. Sometimes all it takes is 5 words and a little courage to change the whole story.